saw myself as anorexic. I never saw myself as bulimic. It was that I was just me and everyone else was hating on it. Because those were, even in keeping them secret from other people, I was keeping them secret from myself.
Do you mind?
Not at all.
Hello. Hello. I'm here with the lovely Daisy Franks. Daisy is a puppeteer, an extraordinary puppeteer on The Life of Pi, which we're at the theatre now. And I thought we'd just talk about you.
Talk about me.
And talk about, I don't know, let's have a chat. How is this going for you? How did you get into puppeteering?
I trained at East 15 physical theatre, and we do a puppetry unit on that course. And
do you? That's quite interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Which is loads of fun. Absolutely loved it. I didn't actually complete the unit. But
you know you're mic'd, that actually would have still.
But I was extremely lucky with this job because it was actually one of my first auditions after graduating.
Yeah,
because I 2019 graduate.
And then COVID.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So this was meant to start 2020, and then it was all just pushed back. So I was just extremely lucky to have been called into that room.
And how did you find the audition process for it?
It was just so much fun. It was we just did like paper men kind of puppetry things, and then they brought out the prototypes of the puppet, so it was like the plyboard kind of skeleton, and then the actual tiger. Yeah. But what was funny is I didn't actually get a go, and they called the audition to an end. And then I did have to say, I think it was actually Owen that I went up to and was like, I'm really sorry, but I didn't get a go.
Oh, so then you were like, oh, well, I haven't got it because I didn't even get to show what I could do.
And I just had so much fun because then they did let me have a go, so everyone had to kind of stick around to watch me have a go.
Your time to shine.
And so I just kind of walked out like, oh, I've obviously not got it because they didn't even ask me to have a go. But it's fine because I just had loads of fun. And then a week later, on the way to work at a pub, I found out.
Oh, great.
Best pub shift of my life.
And people are like, whatever I want. And being in the show, is it what you expected? And I guess within that, I mean, generic question, but as in, this is your first big West End show, right?
Yeah.
So what is this? How have you found the 8 shows a week, the rehearsals, the tech periods, the planning your food, the whole thing? How have you found the whole thing?
I have to admit, I'm someone that thrives on structure. Yeah. If I've got nothing to do, I just go a bit AWOL, and I find myself either doing nothing or just getting obsessed with little things.
Yeah.
So I've actually loved the intensity of this. It's been a lot, and that's not to like make it seem like roses and butterflies all the time. It's definitely been intense, and I've learned a lot about my body.
Yeah.
And the way it moves and things I need to put into myself to sustain this. And also with a background of like eating disorders as well, under stress, like making sure that's never come up. I have to admit, I think that was a bigger fear in my head than it's actually proved to be in a reality, but it's always something that I make sure I'm conscious of. So in a lot of ways, this show's really helped me grow and realise what I'm capable of and what I want to be capable of as well.
And do you... Let me just make this, sorry.
So flip it to both, and then it's like secure.
Yeah, great. And on that point, then, do you think your training geared you up for this, or do you feel like you're learning more from now doing it and getting into that routine?
My training definitely geared me up for intense work days.
Okay, yeah, because it's long schedules, isn't it?
Yeah, it is long schedules, and we do a little thing called Theatre Caf on our course. So you had to, every 2 weeks in your own time, you get given a stimulus, so you have to make a little show, and then we'd all put them on. So there's always extra stuff on top of it as well.
Okay.
Which is why when COVID hit, I realised how busy everything had been, and it was suddenly really hard to do nothing, which is when I did all of like my yoga teacher training and stuff like that, and put my time into that.
You should have said that. You are a yoga instructor as well, aren't you?
I am, rocket yoga. And so, I feel like I was I was prepared and kind of craving that intensity.
And you definitely get that with this.
Definitely get it, and more.
Can we? I can get rid of this, but thank you for voicing your eating disorder stuff. Where did you get your support for that? Did you feel supported? I know we've spoken about this before.
I definitely, I felt supported in a lot of ways, and I think also with things like I had a lot of judgment for myself. So I think in also a lot of the support I received at the time, I saw it as judgment.
Yeah.
And I think in a healthier mind, I can now see that wasn't the case, and a lot of those, it wasn't. I'm not a coddle and cuddle me person anyway. When I'm going through things like that, I kind of need the harsh truth of it, and a lot of people weren't afraid to give me that, which I realized as much as I pushed away for a long time, I then it really helped me see what I was doing to myself.
So did you almost have to get to a point where you went, okay, now I need now?
Yeah,
now
and I
that
think
makes
with
sense to me,
anything like this, it has to be your choice to change it with anything in life. So when you've got other people telling you to do something, whether it's because of your health or whatever, it's always like, how dare you tell me what to do? And it's only when you see it for yourself and realize it's not what you want for yourself that then you can move forward. And I think it was mainly when I saw the effects in what I love to do, like moving and like doing aerial things like that, and it was so hard.
Why was it so hard?
Because I just had no energy, because I wasn't eating enough. My muscle capacity was just gone.
Did you feel weak?
I felt weak, and I think that's something I've always struggled with, because all of my family in particular, we all stand by the fact that we're strong women, and
how many siblings do you have?
I'm one of 11.
Yeah, one of 11. Love that.
And when you've got that many boys as well, we would never let ourselves be weak little girls, and my dad made sure we knew we weren't weak little girls, and my mum, we never had that. So then see that I was becoming what I deemed as a weak little girl was heartbreaking.
So was that also part of the point that you said, oh, I need to get some help now, this isn't quite normal? Yeah,
and I think a big part of it was just being honest with the people around me. I felt like no one knew, and so but then when I said to the people I lived with, I had such a good house at drama school, and I'll always be forever grateful for those people, and more with my family as well, that and even though they all went, well, yeah, obviously. It's kind of like you don't know people have really seen it until you've addressed it yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's not something I
denial,
saw in myself. I never saw myself as anorexic. I never saw myself as bulimic. It was that I was just me, and everyone else was hating on it. Because those were, even in keeping them secret from other people, I was keeping them secret from myself.
And did you ever have it throughout your training where people would praise you on losing weight? Did you ever have that idea of, you look great, keep going?
Yeah, I had a lot. I think being in the dance world as well before going to drama school, there was a lot of body, the praise from weight loss all the time, and it didn't matter what weight you started at. Weight loss will always be celebrated. And then there comes a point when everyone actually starts thinking you're really ugly because of how skinny you are, and then you become hated on that. So it's like this weird fine line. It's this weird thing that it's like it's okay until it's too much, but we're going to praise you until you've gone too far, and then we're going to hate on you when it's not. I hadn't thought of it that way. And the same goes for weight in the opposite direction when you start gaining weight. Because I know when I started gaining weight, and I had to kind of let myself get to what I deemed as like a podgy version, because I knew I needed to do that to myself, and it probably wasn't most people's ideas of podgy at all. But it was uncomfortable for me, and I needed to sit in that uncomfortability. And then you've got people kind of saying like, oh, it's good you've gained weight, but how far do you want to go? And then it's like you realise that you're never going to meet anyone else's expectations. So my goal for myself was just to always feel strong in my body. And is that a nice lead on to our hypermobility? I think it is a nice lead on.
So Daisy is hypermobile. you're potentially clinically hypermobile, aren't you?
Yeah.
With hypermobility syndrome, which we spoke about the first time I met you.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I gave you that list? I was like, do you have this? Do you have this? And you're like,
I was like, wow, you've just labelled me,
yes.
listed me as a person.
then I think you Googled it. And you're like, so if I Googled it, and that's me. So I think we've spoken before about kind of clinical hypermobility and syndromes and the spectrums of it and everything. But Daisy has quite a lot of symptoms associated with that. So very bendy, which is probably why you're good at yoga.
Yeah.
Which we've had to rein in a little bit. Well, not rein in, but just control it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there's two, I've spoken before about this whole premise of being hypermobile and do you push into those joints? And I think something that I have some patients and some performers that have no awareness of their hypermobility, no awareness of their space, so you just hang in everything. That's what you don't want to control, and that's when you need sort of more one-to-one, let me fine-tune your movement and really optimise where you are instead of you just hanging off it.
Yeah.
Whereas you have quite a good awareness of where you are, which is great. So it's easy for you to sort of, so we're doing all the check every time, isn't it? I don't know what we do it here. There's more checks on stage, so if you can hear noise in the background, the stage is moving. But Daisy's quite good at self-managing in regards to knowing your limits.
Yeah.
And it's kind of strengthening within your range. And I think then the link with puppetry and you being hypermobile is that some problems we've had, right, is that you sit into your joints repetitively 8 shows a week
onto the floor.
and can weirdly, I feel like I should show some weird videos of your very mobile limbs, can get into the most incredible positions, but sustainably that's not always the best.
No.
So it's kind of being, for you need to be strong in your whole range.
Yeah.
So there's no point in us going, get to neutral and then stop. That's as far as it needs to go, because then practically 8 shows a week, you're never going to go, I can't move the leg there because it's going to be out of my neutral range.
No,
you have to have
yeah.
that full space. But what with your hypermobility, obviously you've known about it for years, right? A long time?
Not actually that long.
Really?
No,
Was I the
but
first
I think
person
I'd never really thought about it too much.
Yeah. I'm sorry, then I go,
No, not
we
at
need
all.
to do this.
Not at all, because it explains so many questions I did have about my body, but never,
Yeah.
like, it just kind of went like, oh, we're all different, it's fine.
Yeah, party tricks. So how then have you, so I guess in quite a short period of time, because we met like end of last year, October?
October.
When was the rehearsals? October 21. So how have you learned to control and manage your hypermobility? What do you do? Or what have you done?
A lot of it came from like real being consciously aware of what I was doing with my body, because although I feel like I've got a lot of body awareness, there's a lot of things that I was doing that I hadn't quite realised I was, because it felt easy and it felt comfortable.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like especially niggles with my knees started coming up that I was always like twisting at funky angles
Like
with
you
my
were
knee
sort of
and
super
like
flexed and
yeah,
rotated,
always
really
going
driving
like
into
beyond my flexion point and then lifting my whole body weight up from that.
Yeah.
And as well as like being on a rake and it being like that knee being downstage and then putting my whole body weight on that and then pushing into it to then stand up. That it was only comfortable for so long and then it became a real issue.
Yeah.
And so I think it was spending a bit of time finding different ways to, especially because we're very like floor on hind you, there's a lot of like going down to the floor, coming back up, and it's all very low, that finding different ways to move in and out of the floor, that I wasn't always landing in such extreme positions, even if it did feel really alien to move so much, and it felt like such big movements to move all of me out of the way rather than just like pancake on the floor. It's also strengthened my mobility in that range as well, because it's moving through it all rather than just dumping into one place.
Yeah, and knowing that can be harder, right?
Yeah.
So some of your exercises we can make much harder because instead of you relying on your joints to take you somewhere and just sit in that joint, I'm going, no, let's challenge you here, or let's push this.
Looking at my like active range versus my passive range, because I know I've got a really good passive range.
Yes.
And I know that if I want a good stretch, I can find that at any point.
Yes.
But being in a really good stretch when you then need to pick yourself back
And
up
have
again and
strength in that.
strength in that isn't. I don't need to rely on that, and there's other ways to use my body and challenge it to strengthen it in other ways. A lot of the ways that actually support what I'm putting it into when I go into like a deeper stretch.
And using your muscles and your soft tissue to support that instead of everything else, the joint, which is not going to tolerate that over, especially like I keep saying, 8 shows a week, doing tech runs, we're just going into a cast change, hence lots of voices coming back into the stage. Tell me what you said the other day about your ego with it as well. You said...
Yeah, I feel like there's a big thing with flexible people, and I feel like flexible people watching this will feel it too, that there's like a lot of pride in your flexibility, and whether that's like performative or what, or like personal, there always is like, you're proud of yourself, come on.
And it looks cool, right?
It looks cool. But I think it's realising when, pride does not serve you, and also that range isn't always useful. So, you can do that, but you don't need to do it all the time, and it is actually more challenging to your ego and to your body and to your flexibility and mobility to use your body in other ways and really challenge that range of motion rather than just dumping down into it because you're like,
I can.
Which isn't always my intention, but you realise probably subconsciously it is.
And also, we always pick the easiest option, right? We always sit in the easiest positions. We know we tend to sit slouched or because it's easier. It's often harder to engage those right muscles and keep those active and supported. So it
becomes lazy, and it's like using your ego then to be lazy as well, which is just like just let it
take that away. Let it go.
Let it be hard for a while and enjoy the challenge, because you definitely see the benefits. Because I think there's definitely been times when I've been tired in this doing the show, and I've just been like, I'll just do what I normally do, and just like collapse on the floor, and then after I'm like, why did I do that? Because you also just begin to relax in that position, and then if you're there for like 30 seconds to 2 minutes and you've just completely relaxed, you've got to really gear everything up again to move, and it takes one small movement to just destroy it all.
And also when you are, so in those positions when you are just fully relaxed and you sit completely into that joint, your muscles just can switch off. So you're then going from a state of 30 seconds of hanging off joints and various other soft tissue structures, and then suddenly going, well, I need to stand up. So muscles that haven't been working for 30 seconds, you haven't had to, can we work? And they're like, well, no. You don't ever make me work. So it's it's a tricky one with that. But I think we're doing quite well with it.
We are.
And you've definitely got stronger, which is great to see. I
feel a lot stronger.
Which is really
and I feel
nice.
like I trust my body a lot more, and I think that's a really important thing, is to, when your body is your tool, you have to trust the tool you're using. You wouldn't use like a faulty drill. So
have you found, I'm just thinking about that, have you found that building a bit more strength has impacted your flexibility? Because that's a fear I think a lot of people have, is
you know what, in a lot of ways I've
actually,
and I think it's always the big fear, and it's a big lie. I remember being told by one of my yoga teachers before, it's like strong muscle stretch, and it's so true. My cold range is deeper now than it ever was before.
Oh really?
Because I don't know, they've got more support around them to be willing to give. Like I could definitely not take that long to warm up and find a deep range. But even in the morning, if I go into a forward fold, it's like a complete forward fold, and that never would normally happen. It would be way off, and I'd wiggle around for a little bit, and then it would ease into it. But my cold range is also my injury prevention range is a lot broader.
Oh, that's interesting. You've never said that before. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know.
Because I noticed even when I've fallen down the stairs and things and twisted my ankles and kind of stumbled. I'm a bit clumsy, to be honest. But I've not actually hurt myself anywhere near as much from small little things in my clumsy little life.
Well, that's always good. Because that's your life. That's part of why we love days. So let's just try and protect you a little bit in that clumsiness. So we wrap it up and go down to our meet and greet. We've got a little meet and greet with the new cast. What are your takeaway tips? What advice would you give if you look back at your performer self, in training? What would you give yourself now? Or any tips you'd give someone who is currently training, wanting to pursue a career in musical theatre, West End, acting, performance?
I think realise what your body is capable of comfortably.
Yep.
like what your go-to, especially if you're like a physical performer, what your comfortable abilities are, and what are also the things you're a bit afraid to do, and where does that come from?
Okay, that's nice. I like that.
Because I think a lot of my things that I was scared to do came from not trusting and the strength of my body doing those things, and hone in on that one, not the one you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because the one that you're comfortable with you can normally do, and it's easier to switch off and let them become unconscious movement.
Yeah.
And that's when, well, for me, that's when I've really begun to hurt myself. It's by looking at the things that I want to improve on, or I want more from myself, and honing in on that, even if it leaves you in a really like having to be a super conscious mindset for ages. Those things will gradually become a lot easier, and then you've got a broader toolbox to work from for the rest of your career.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. That's nice. Anything else to prepare them for the industry? Recovery, nutrition, anything else?
I'll find a way to fuel yourself. Definitely, if meal prep is not your thing, try and make meal prep your thing. I know that I kind of need to do that a lot of the time, otherwise I just go completely AWOL. And looking at how I'm eating on my days off, because sometimes on my days off I can just completely binge out, or go out for the day and actually find I've eaten nothing. So I try and stick to similar to the same times that I would eat normally, and not see it if you're someone with a bit of a funky mindset with food as me, that just because you haven't done anything that day as you normally would, like a show, that doesn't mean that your body doesn't need that fuel, because it's in its recovery stage and you need to fuel it to recover. So look at the bigger picture of the week rather than just the feeling of that day.
Yes to all of that. Great.
And sleep.
And sleep. Sleep. Recovery. We bash on about sleep and recovery, don't we? Yeah, great. Thanks, Days.
Thanks for having me, Sophie.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really useful. I don't need this end bit, really, but
We like it.
yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
That was great.
That's great.
Should we have a sneak peek at the meet and greet of the new cast? Should we turn you around?
And here we have some actors in their natural habitat.
Right, we're going to go meet everyone. Okay, bye.